Welcome to Special Guest Thursdays, where real voices bring real stories to life. This ain't just an interview. This is a spotlight on those making moves. Different paths, different struggles, different wins. But one thing in common, they showed up and leveled up. We're sitting down with leaders, creators, and game changers to talk pressure, purpose, and the mindset behind the grind. No scripts, no filters, just real. Because every guest brings gems, and every story brings power. This is the Final Boss Podcast, and this is Special Guest Thursdays. Tap in and tune up.
Welcome to Special Guest Thursdays. Man, to each and every last single one of you that is joining us. Hey, Karma, how you doing? I see you. Sorry, Kara, I apologize. I apologize for that. Welcome, Kara. I see you. Thank you for joining us. Man, listen. I have a few announcements before we get into tonight's show. I'm super excited, man. Tomorrow is the day, but we'll get into that, right? We're going to get into that later on. But before we get into the show, as you always know, those are bars, right? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's the greeting of the day. And understand that this is for entertainment purposes only. Man, I got a great show for you guys tonight, man. We're gonna do a couple things tonight. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. You are a part of the reason. Thank you so much to the wonderful, always analytical, always checking me for doing the right thing, right? My bounce back person. Yep. The wonderful Andrea, right? Salute. Yes. We are here, man. Less than 24 hours from now is the big day. But we're going to talk about that. But right now, this instant, I have a few admin notes that I need to get out. First, if you haven't gotten All Aboard Fired Up Train, make sure you go get it. All Aboard the Fired Up Train, right? Make sure you go get that, right? If you haven't, it's an Amazon bestseller. Go pick it up, right? It's an Amazon bestseller. Go pick up Go Time All Aboard the Fired Up Train, right? So tonight, man, I got a great show for you tonight, man. We're gonna go light, we're gonna go deep, and we're gonna go doctoral. All three in one, right? Because tonight's guest is actually the empty chair, right? But it's the empty chair on purpose. And also, tonight is the last night of Special Guest Thursdays, right? I'm changing this whole premise behind the title and what the show is, right? It would no longer be called Special Guest Thursday. So Special Guest Thursdays dies tonight in season 4, arc 3. When we start when we start arc 4, which is next week, season 4, the rebirth, arc 4, we're going from arc 3, the foundation, to arc 4, the construction. That starts next week, and we will have a new title for Special Guest Thursdays. It will no longer be called Special Guest Thursdays, right? But tonight, man, we're going to focus on the empty chair, right? We're going to focus on the empty chair. And I got a lot of information to get to you guys, man. A lot of information, right? And some things that we need to talk about, right? And that's what we do here on the Final Boss Podcast, man. We have the most difficult of all conversations, right? You see, I have my cap on. So tomorrow's the big day. And thanks, Sammy. I appreciate you, bro. But I'm walking across that stage with my masters tomorrow, bro. What you got? You probably playing Nintendo right now, right? I know. It's okay, bro. Welcome anyway, man. I appreciate you. All right. So So tomorrow is the big day, man. Grad walk across the stage, man. UMGC. Shout out to UMGC, right? Get my MBA. Finally, man. Finally, man. It's been encouraging, right? It's yeah, like I was saying, it's been encouraging, right? And to everyone who's been supporting me across this path, thank you. Thank you, Conde. You already know, right? We shared that emotional moment earlier, right? But now got the admin note. Well, not all the admin notes. The next admin note. Look, go see all of our episodes, man. Go see all of our episodes. All of our episodes are on right now our website, which is thefinalbosspodcast.com. Go check it out, thefinalbosspodcast.com. You would like to be part of the show, shoot us an email at info@thefinalbosspodcast.com, all one word, info@thefinalbosspodcast.com, all one word, man. Go shoot us an email. We got another town hall coming up. So if you'd like to get your letters in so you can be a part of the town hall that's happening next week, right? Next week, as we open up our season 4, arc 4, we're going to do a town hall, right? We're going to be doing a town hall. We're going to go over some things, man. But look, now that I got that out of the way, those are admin notes. Let's get into the episode of the night, which is episode number 239, the Rebirth, arc 3, the Foundation. The Foundation dies tonight in season special guest Thursdays, right? And before we get into the show, man, we're going to talk about the empty chair, right? The empty chair. That's the name of the show, right? So the brass tacks of the evening is this. Hey, Sammy, this for you, bro. Pay attention. And you should probably take some notes, man. Take some notes, right? Pharaoh hardened his heart 10 times before the kingdom fell. I'm not waiting for the 11th, right? The walk is tomorrow. The chair beside me is full, although it is empty, right? And that's tonight's brass tacks. And that comes from none other but yours truly, right? So, family, nation, and podcast, right? To every one of you that no matter where you're watching, whether you're watching on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Spotify, and StreamYard, man. We're all on those channels right now. I need you guys to pull up, get a little closer, right? Because we can already go in, man. Pull up, come get a little closer, right? I need you to lean into this because I need y'all all in the room with me right now at this moment, tonight, at this time, right? Because what I'm about to tell you, right? And look, I'm not going to say it twice. Well, I might say it twice, right? But some of you need to hear this, right? And I need it to land more than once, right? So I'm gonna say everything twice tonight, just because, right? Because it matters, because I want it to land, right? And I need you to feel it in your chest, right? I need you to feel it in your chest, man. So let's get ready, right? Listen. Special Guest Thursdays, episode 239 for those who are just now joining us. Welcome, right? Season 4, the Rebirth, Arc 3, the Foundation. And tonight, man, the chair is not empty. The chair is full. Look at it, right? You look at it, right? Look around you, right? The chair is full, right? Even though it's empty, right? But the real chair, the real room, the real night belongs to the fullness of the chair, right? But listen, that chair is full of every black mind and every white ally and every prophet and every architect of insight who diagnosed this country and got buried for the diagnosis, right? I'm here to talk about that, right? I came here with a heavy heart and my mind full. And tonight is on purpose, with purpose, right? So tomorrow afternoon, I walk that stage, right, with the University of Maryland Global Campus, May 15th at 3 o'clock, right? I grab that MBA, right? And after 23 years of federal service, serving in 3 tours, OEF, OIF, right? Iraq and Afghanistan, right? After standing at the Pentagon and witnessing the travesty and the accident or incident of September 11th, right? With smoke in my lungs, right? And after being an IT branch chief, right? After all of it, I walk tomorrow. And when I walk, the old man stays on the side of the velvet rope, on the side of the water, right? The new man walks out on the other side. We entering and going from foundation to construction. The slab is curing. And tonight is one of those last pours that we're going to pour into the foundation. As Sunday approaches with sitting down and it closes out the actual foundation, arc 3, and the construction opens, right? And from my sovereign lens, I need you guys to see the patterns that I'm going to be talking about tonight, right? The sovereign, right, reads the source code of what's happening in our country. The sovereign decodes what the empire spends billions to keep coded. And tonight, the sovereign is on the mic, and I brought the receipts. I got all of them, right? I got all of them. And what we doing? We're going to be doing what I like to call, we're going to boil the ocean, and we're going to burn some boats, right? Boil the ocean and burn some boats, right? We're going to name the disease, right? There's a disease that's running rampant in this country. And it's unfortunate because it doesn't have to be that way. They can be allies. They should be allies because under this country, under this umbrella, we only succeed through unity, right? People can have their beliefs. People can have their identities, but we don't come together as a country unless we're unified under unity. It doesn't matter what your color is. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are. What matters is that we are unified, right? That's what matters. And one of the diseases that I'm going to be talking about tonight is called white narcissistic nationalism, or WNN, right? I'm coining the diagnostic category right here, right? I'm going to track the cycle. The cycle of America is in a constant destroy and rebuild. 4 times in American history, we're underway of the 5th. Recognize the patterns, right? And I wish I had a Bible with me right now I could use, right? Because I'm laying the Bible on top of the news that I'm bringing tonight, right? Let me get rid of these banners, right? All right, banners are gone, right? Yeah. Bringing in the Bible, right? Think about that. Let it sit with you, right? Moses went to see Pharaoh in his throne room, right? That same story. It's the same story that we're seeing right now. It's a new century. It's a new empire. Same Pharaoh, right? Dropping the 2 flagship strategic white papers on you tonight. That's going to anchor the doctoral catalog into place, right? For energy sovereignty and for consciousness sovereignty, right? And we're going to walk through it. And we're going to talk about the doctoral summary, right? Because it's necessary, right? And we're going to be previewing the road ahead on our way to episode 300, the harvest, right? All 4 communities need to be locked in. We're going to address every single one of you guys tonight by role and by inheritance, right? And we can start with our smarts, right? My smarts are in the building. Yes. This is your inheritance, right? Tonight, you watch it, you get handed the next generation in real time, right? In real time. To my motivators, I know you're here. An old self dies tonight on this episode. Stay for the resurrection, right? Because tomorrow morning is a new day, right? And to my warriors, right? I know you're here. Strategic dominance is the lens. It's time to exit, build, and return as an architect. We're talking strategy at the altitude level, right? And to my warriors, you guys are the hero, right? Strategic dominance, right? Strategic dominance. Yeah. That was all 4 communities. The chair is empty, but the chair is full, right? And the chair has been waiting for this episode for about 400 years. And the man on the mic is the inheritor, right? Not the petitioner. Know the difference. Not the protester. The inheritor, right? So let's boil the ocean. Let's go. Fired up train. Let's strap in. Let's go, right? Now, I need you to run it back with me real quick, right? Run it back with me real quick, right? We're going to talk about where we at, where we coming from, where we headed, right? Stay with me, right? So we started the rebirth at episode number 201 with my brother, Frank Zakari, right? He was on the chair on this special night, right? And we started the season in the ignition season, right? And then we went to the clearing. The clearing cut what couldn't come, right? And then the foundation poured the slab, starring at Arc 3, right? At Arc 3. And right now, tonight, episode 239, the grad walk is tomorrow. The slab keeps cutting and curring through the weekend, which is the construction. And the construction opens on Sunday, right? The declaration lands 4 weeks later after that, right? And then episode 300, which is season 5, The Harvest. Stay tuned for that, right? That is the architecture. That is the map. That is the 8-month timeline locked in advance, right? And executed right here on this platform, the Find the Boss Podcast, Find the Boss Nation, Find the Boss Community, right? Find the Boss Network, right? Listen, that's not a podcast schedule. That is a public version of a private rebuild, and I'm doing it live right here at 9 o'clock, 5 days a week, right? Y'all are watching me do the identity surgery on live stream, right? 39 episodes ago, I was a different person. I had started something different, right? And tonight, I'm walking into something different as well, right? With 2 flagship white papers, right? That will be in circulation after they get published, right? A brand new ecosystem, along with this cybersecurity firm, right? Go Time series, the first book became an Amazon bestseller. 2 more books in the pipeline. And right now, we're currently at 350,000 plus people in the community, right? And listen, that's not a glow up. That's not about vanity. That's part of the rebirth. That is the season name doing its job in real time, right? Now, as the sovereign, and here's my lens on Arc 3, the foundation. The foundation may be the most boring arc to anybody watching from the outside, right? I get it. People want bang. The foundation's not bang, but it's necessary. They want the show. That's not the foundation, right? They want the floor up and already so they take a peek in and take a tour like GTA, right? But the foundation is just a slab. It's concrete. Like we told you in the beginning, the foundation And as the structure becomes erect, you only see the foundation and the finished product. You don't see what happens in between, in the space, in the void, right? You just see the foundation, and then now there's a building. That's what the foundation is about, right? Just concrete, just current, just waiting, right? Looks like nothing is happening. But the pattern, people who recognize patterns, they know. Because foundation is everything. Foundation is the whole building underneath the building. We talked about foundation underneath the foundation the other day, right? You skip the slab, the tower falls. You rush the slab, the tower cracks. You honor the slab, the tower stands for 100+ years, right? I didn't skip the slab. I poured the slab. It was necessary, right? And letting it cure until we get into the harvest, right? I didn't rush it. I honored it, right? The slab inventory tonight, and I need you to write this down, and this is for my smarts, right? We got 2 flagship white papers that we're going to be discussing, right? One is on energy sovereignty, and the other one is on consciousness sovereignty. Both versions are 1.0, right? We're doing the Baldy Ocean Protocol, and they're both authored solely under SDND, right? If you know, you know. The unified operation system is the consciousness sovereignty architecture underneath everything that we do, right? Right here on this show. The frameworks is part of the 6 C's character compass, right? And then we have the fired up train methodology, the 6 pillars of execution, the 5 scales of empire, the 3 thrones of mastery, 6 building blocks of reward, and 5 systems of sovereignty. Those are the frameworks, right? The applied technology is from Hexadecimal. She's our AI vetting agent for those who are new to the show, right? She's a NewOwl.ai Gen 3 vetting agent, right? With a 100-point scoring matrix. And all the platforms, right? The Final Boss podcast is the broadcast layer. Pay attention. You're going to learn something. Go Time, the trilogy that will be soon in the curriculum, is the curriculum. I'm sorry, right? It is the curriculum. Go Time is the curriculum. The Sovereign, as the umbrella, is Saturn Digital Networks Development Corporation, right? And then the cyber vertical is the Dr.AI Global, right? You can go check out the books on Dwight-TurboDiller.com, right? The capability statements are all filled on diginet.com as well. Go check that out. That's the slab. That is what's poured in ARC 3. And we're just getting started, right? My smarts, document the inventory. That is the infrastructure for the dissertation. To my final bosses, the slab took years. The slab took uniforms, right? The slab took deployments. The slab took the federal years. The slab took the MBA. The slab took the books. The slab is not slowing down. The slab is permanent, right? And to my motivators, you're watching somebody pour a slab in real time, right? You can watch what comes off the slab. You can mimic, and it will change your life, right? And to my warriors, the slab is strategy. Slab is what you do when the empire counts on the inheritor having no foundation when the inheritance arrives, right? And tomorrow, the slab cures harder. And by Monday, the framing goes up. And by episode 300, the building is being toured, right? We're perfectly on schedule and perfectly in alignment, right? Now, that was the schedule, right? Now, y'all want to know who is really in the chair, right? As I said, empty chair, but the chair is full. Now, let me roll call the chair, right? Because right now, there are 8 seats that you don't see. Stay with me. 8 seats, 8 architects of insight, right? 8 lenses that I inherit, 8 frameworks I extend. The sovereign carries every single one forward into the next century. Not their words, though. Not their words tonight, right? But their frameworks. And I'm talking and taking what they published and applying it to the moment that ain't around to see get closed, right? Now, let's talk about the first seat. The first seat. Very important seat, especially what's happening right now, right? We're going in. The first seat is Frederick Douglass. The first seat is Frederick Douglass. The framework, right? His mindset. These are his words. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Never has, never will. The sovereign extends Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass made the speech. Frederick Douglass walked into the empire's drawing room and made the empire hear the demand. The sovereign builds the platform. The speech runs on at scale. We don't just speak the demand. We architect the infrastructure that makes the demand impossible to ignore, right? Now, seat number two. Seat number two is James Baldwin, right? The framework. This country, this is his words, right? This country is not what it tells itself it is. Listen to me. From the words of James Baldwin. This country is not what it tells itself it is. The only path through is to look at it without flinching. Baldwin held the mirror up. The sovereign turns the mirror into an architectural blueprint. Baldwin made America see itself. The sovereign tells America what gets built on the other side of the scene, right? That was Baldwin. Seat three. Seat three is Carl Anderson and their frameworks, right? Carl Anderson. White rage. White rage, right? Every Black advance triggers white backlash. Procedural, legal, institutional. The trigger is never Black failure. The trigger is always Black success. The sovereign extends Anderson by renaming the deeper disease, white rage. It's the symptom on the surface. White narcissistic nationalism is the operating system underneath all of it. Tonight, we name the operating system on record from Carl Anderson. Seat four, Eddie Glaude, right? His frameworks. The value gap. America operates on the unspoken belief that white lives matter more, and the institutions are coded to the belief. The sovereign extends Glaude. We're going to close the gap by rebuilding the consciousness substrate underneath the institutions. The institutions inherit the substrate. Change the substrate, the institutions change. Don't change the substrate, the institutions resist forever, right? That's from Eddie G. Seat five is Ta-Nehisi Coates, right? Ta-Nehisi Coates, their framework. The body. The Black body bears the cost of the American myth. Reparations is not a metaphor. It is owned. The sovereign extends Coates, right? The body bears the cost and the body builds the kingdom. Same body, both jobs. We do not just document the cost. We document what the cost-bearing body produces when it gets to the architect of the future, right? Ta-Nehisi Coates. Seat six is Isabel Wilkerson, right? Isabel Wilkerson. Make sure you take notes, right? Write these names down. Isabel Wilkerson, right? Their framework. Caste, right? America runs on a caste system as engineered as India's is as old, right? As enforced, as invisible to the dominant caste, right? The sovereign extends Wilkerson. The caste has an exit. The exit is sovereign construction outside the caste permission structure. You do not get the dominant caste to release you. You build beyond the caste reach, right? Isabel Wilkerson, right? The seventh seat is Jamar Tisby and their framework. The color of compromise. The white American church chose accommodation with racism for 400 years. The sovereign extends Tisby. The spiritual sovereignty architecture does not wait for the white church to repent. It rebuilds and it builds parallel. It builds anyway. It builds the spiritual infrastructure outside the compromised institutions, right? And finally, that was Jamar Tisby. The last seat, Robert P. Jones. Robert P. Jones, right? And here's the framework. The end of white Christian America, statistically documented, demographically inevitable, politically resisted with every tool the empire holds. The sovereign extends Jones. The demographic clock is the plague clock. Every year, the heart hardens. Another plague lands. We don't just count the demographic shift. We architect what happens when the shift arrives. Those are the 8 chairs. Those are the 8 lenses. One lineage, right? One sovereign carrying every single framework forward, right? And family, listen to me, hear me, please, right? The shoulders bend down so the next generation can see further. The shoulders have names. I just read you some of those names. The sovereign is what stands up on top of those soldiers, those shoulders, and finishes the building they've been blueprinting since 1619. Run that back. Go do your research. The building they've been blueprinting, they've been doing it since 1619. The chair watches, right? Now, come close. Come close. Yeah, come close, right? And pull you in close. This is the part I need y'all to pay attention to, right? Because tomorrow is real. And tomorrow is loaded, and somebody dies tomorrow, and y'all need to be in the room when I name him. Because the old self dies, right? And I want y'all to hear me say that without no flinching, right? The old man does not walk across the stage with me. The old man stays on the other side of the water permanently, on the other side of the velvet rope permanently, right? No visitation rights, right? And you want to know who is the old man? Listen, let me name him so y'all know who gets buried tomorrow, right? The old man is the soldier, right? The old man is the soldier that had walked into the National Guard, the old man that went to the United States Army, right? Gave 20 plus years of his life, right? 23 to be exact, in uniform, right? That man is honored. That man is loved. That man kept everyone in his family eating, right? That man kept the country safe in 2 theaters plus 1, right? That man earned every ribbon, every award, right? That man does not get to come with me. That chapter closes, right? And it's closing on schedule, right? The old man is the dude who stood at the Pentagon on 9/11, right? With smoke still in his lungs and didn't even know how to grieve yet because so much was happening to his beloved country, right? The country called, he answered, right? And he kept working. That man is honored. That man saved lives. That man absorbed into something nobody is supposed to absorb that young. That man does not get to come with me on that stage. That chapter is closed, right? And the closing is on schedule, right? The old man who was the branch chief, who held the line, right? At DCNG Joint Force Headquarters, right? And watch the federal system grind down good people and still give it everything for 2.5 decades. That man is honored too. That man earned every dollar of that, everything I've gotten, right? That man earned the right to walk out on his own through the front door. But the man does not walk across the stage tomorrow. That man stays right there at the velvet rope, right? I need y'all to hear me, man. The honor is in the burial. The honor is letting the man rest. The disrespect is dragging him into the next chapter where he doesn't belong, right? What walks across the stage tomorrow is what survived the editing. The editing was real. The editing took years. The editing took some friendships. The editing took some habits. The editing took some titles. But what survived? Family survived, right? Me being an author survived. Me still being a combat veteran will survive, right? Me being a PhD candidate survived. The Sovereign survived. Dr. AI survived, right? And to my warriors, listen, each and every last single one of you are warriors. Every uniform was a chapter. Every chapter has a closing sense. Every closing sense deserves a funeral. Stop trying to wear all the uniforms at once. Y'all are looking ridiculous, right? The uniforms had their seasons. Stack them in a closet out of honor. Walk out wearing the next one, right? The next one is the one that fits the work that is in front of you right now, not the one you wore during combat, right? Not the one that you've been wearing for the last 15 years, right? And to my motivators, you cannot be reborn while the old self is still arguing with you. The old self has to lose the argument out loud in public with witness, right? On a stage, the walk tomorrow is the funeral. The walk tomorrow is the resurrection. Same ceremony, two different angles, same hour, different bodies coming out on the other side, right? And to my final bosses, the version of you the system was comfortable with dies on the walk. The version that system has to negotiate with is born on the other side. Negotiation requires leverage. MBA is the leverage. PhD is the leverage, right? Energy sovereignty is the leverage, right? Consciousness sovereignty is the leverage, right? Platform is leverage. Frameworks is leverage. Community is leverage. The brand ecosystem is leverage. Stop asking permission. Hand the empire your terms, right? And my smarts, right? Credentials ain't the value. I'm going to say that again, man. Credentials ain't the value, right? Synthesis is the value. The credential certifies what the work already proved. Get the credential, then build past the credential, right? The chair is empty, but it's full. And we watched this funeral and the resurrection 8 times already. Every name in the chair walked through the same death the empire designed for them and came out architect of something the empire could not contain. And they're no longer here, right? That is the inheritance, right? And we walk tomorrow. So let's talk about WNN, right? And I need y'all to pay attention for a second, right? This isn't coming from a place of, this is coming from a place of love, right? Because everyone, no matter what you identify as, no matter what your beliefs are, this is America. This is America, right? Everybody in it who's American is American, right? So we only succeed. We only succeed in this system if we're unified, period. The division, it eliminates us. Every time we're divided, the destroy and rebuild protocol is in effect, right? So let's get into it, right? Strap up, man. Strap up, right? Because we're going in, right? And I want y'all to understand this is going to be doctoral, so pay attention, right? WNN, white narcissistic nationalism, right? That's a diagnosis, right? The white paper material on the air. This is the academic centerpiece of this episode. This is the diagnosis on record, and we're going in with it right now. I need you to understand something. WNN, that is the diagnosis. Write it down, right? We are coining the diagnostic category tonight. We plant the flag in the literature on air, cited for it, right? So listen, and listen close, right? Open up DSM-5, right? Look at your phone, pull up your phones, your laptops, whatever you're looking at. Look up DSM-5, right? It's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, 5th edition, right? Look it up. This is what we do when we do research, right? DSM-5. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, Volume 5. Look up narcissistic personality disorder. Read the clinical criteria. 9 of them, right? It's 9 of them, right? Excuse me. Sorry. This is a sense of entitlement. Fantasies of unlimited power and success. Lack of empathy. Exploitation of others. Envy of others, or belief that others are envious of you. Arrogance. Rage when status is threatened. Allergy to accountability, right? Allergy to accountability. Now take those 9 criteria, right? And do not apply them to one person. Apply them to a whole national identity that has been fused to whiteness for 400 years, right? Watch what happens. Watch the map. Watch the diagnosis assemble itself on the page, right? America is the greatest country on earth, right? City on a hill. Manifest destiny, chosen by God. American exceptionalism as state religion. Every flag statue, every flag salute, every anthem, every cable, news monologue, all on prime time, right? And then there's entitlement, right? The country was made for us. The land is ours. The wealth is ours. The future is ours. Y'all are visitors at best. Threats at worst. The Great Replacement Theory was a 4chan post in 2011. And by 2026, it is a talking point with sitting members of Congress saying out loud that certain folks do not belong in America's society and have to go back home. The PRRI and Brookings already documented the count. 10% of Americans qualify as Christian nationalism adherents on the multidimensional measurement scale. 19% more are sympathetic. 40% of all adherents agree patriots may need violence to save the country. And that's not fringe. That's the base. Violence, right? Lack of empathy. Family separation at the border. Mass incarceration as policy. Police shootings absorbed as weather. School shootings absorbed as weather. Maternal mortality at developed third worlds are always at the bottom, right? Life expectancy in our country is declining, and we're supposed to be the wealthiest country on the planet. Coal towns are closed and blamed on black welfare, right? Instead of corporate offshoring, right? Right? Yeah. Exploitation. Built on enslaved labor. Stolen indigenous land. Chinese Chinese rail labor, right? Mexican farm labor. Undocumented service labor, right? Then we call those exact people the threat to the country they built. Narcissism consumes the labor and rages at the laborers simultaneously, right? And then there's envy, right? The envy, which is crazy, right? Black culture dominates Global music, that's a stat. Global sports, that's a stat. Global fashion, that's a stat. Global language and culture, that's a stat. White nationalism rages against the very expressions it consumes daily. The kid in the basement writing a manifesto is wearing Air Jordans right now, right? Right now. Rage, rage, rage when statuses are threatened. Charlottesville, January 6th. Buffalo, El Paso, Pittsburgh Synagogue, Mother Emanuel Church, the mosque, the temple, the grocery stores, the schools. Bodies stacked in the name of the wounded white identity. And then there's accountability allergy, right? They're teaching and saying right now, oh, slavery wasn't that bad. Jim Crow is over. Stop teaching that in schools. Stop teaching that Jim Crow is bad in schools. Slavery wasn't bad. They were employees. They're reclassifying the slaves as workers in Florida curriculums, right? They want to ban the books, defund the libraries, erase the receipts, pardon the insurrectionists, but rewrite the history. Blacks in the military at high levels are being fired, and the government being fired. Over 300,000 Black women fired in 1 year, right? That's not a coincidence. That's the diagnosis, right? The lineage in the empty but full chair named the symptoms. Anderson named the white rage. Glaude named the value gap. Wilkerson named the caste. Tisby named the spiritual collusion, and Jones named the demographic clock. Baldwin named the mirror. Douglas, he named the demand. And Coates named the cost on the body, right? The sovereign names the disease. WNN, white narcissistic nationalism, right? WNN. The synthesis, the operating system, the thing currently glitching the load very loudly right now because the demographic upgrade ain't optional anymore, right? It's about smarts. I need you to plant the flag. The literature gets the term tonight on air. I need you to cite it and plan it forward, right? Plan it forward, right? Now, here's the receipts. Know the cycle. There's a historical pattern that happens in this country, right? And this is what the sovereign sees that the country doesn't want you to see, right? This is the math the empire speaks billions to keep hidden, right? America runs on a pattern. People, family, smarts, motivators, warriors, final bosses. It's a pattern. It's a repetitive pattern, right? I hope y'all are listening, right? It's called destroy and rebuild. Destroy and rebuild. And every rebuild excludes the people who built it. Every destruction gets dressed up as restoration. The cycle has run 4 times, and we're about to run the 5th turn right now in real time, right? And I need y'all to hear this, right? Because I'm going to drop the receipts. I got the timelines, right? The first cycle was from 1861 to 1877. Slavery ends. Reconstruction begins, right? 16 Black men elected to Congress, Black wealth accumulating, Black schools opening, Black majorities running the 5 southern states, Black sheriffs, Black judges, Black voters, putting Republicans in office across the South. Then in 1877, the compromise pulls federal troops out. Reconstruction is murdered in the cradle. In 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson, the locks are separate but equal into the Constitution, right? And by 1900, sharecropping, convict leasing, organized lynching epidemic, slavery is rebuilt in everything but the legal name. The rebuild is Jim Crow, 12 years of Black advance, 8 years of white architectural backlash, right? Then the next cycle was cycle number 2, right? Cycle number 2 was from 1945 to 1968. Black veterans come home from beating the Nazis. The GI Bill arrives. Redlining ensures the Black veteran does not get the federally subsidized loans, right? Levittown locks Black families out of the suburbs built on Black tax dollars, right? The Black middle class is strangled into the crib while the white middle class is born on federal credit. Then the breakthrough, Brown versus Board, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, the legal ceiling cracks. Then the king is dead in Memphis. And then 1971, Nixon launches the war on drugs. He owns the owl. And his aide, John Ehrlichman, admitted later it was designed to criminalize Black communities and anti-war activities. Then Reagan's crack laws came about, right? The rebuild is mass incarceration, 23 years of Black advance, 50 years of white architectural backlash, right? Then cycle 3, from 2008 to 2026, where we are right now. First Black president takes office. Tea Party is born the next year. Shelby County versus Holder gets the Voting Rights Act in 2013. Reaction takes the White House in 2016. George Floyd in 2020 produced the largest protest movement in American history. Corporations post Black squares on Instagram. Senate kills police reform. Supreme Court kills affirmative action in 2023. Anti-DEI laws spread to 30 plus states. Book bans are starting. McCarthy era rates begin, right? Christian nationalism mainstreamed. Mass deportation rhetoric is normalized. Birthright citizenship is under attack. The rebuild is being authored right now in our faces, right? While we sit back and watch. 18 years of Black advance, the white architectural backlash is currently operational. 3 cycles complete. 1 cycle is in active progression. The trigger is never Black failure. The trigger is always Black success, right? Then there's Wilkerson's cast lens, and I need to read that cleanly to you, right? I need to read that cleanly to you. The dominant cast tolerates the subordinate cast at any altitude until the subordinate cast threatens the architecture of the dominance itself. Then the architecture mobilizes. Legal architecture, political architecture, religious architecture, economic architecture, narrative architecture, all 5 at once. Every cycle, every time, reliable as gravity, right? Anderson predicted this. Glaude predicted this. Tisby predicted this. Jones predicted this. The whole chair, all 8 predicted this. And they weren't wrong. They were just a little early, right? But the sovereign lens, the lens sees the pattern in real time. The cycle cannot be stopped by appealing to the consciousness of the dominant cast. The cast has run 4 times because the dominant cast authored every single build or rebuild. Every single time. They held the pen. They wrote the next chapter. They wrote themselves back into power every cycle. The cycle can only be broken when sovereign architecture is built outside the empire's permission structure before the rebuild starts. When the people of the empire writes out the rebuild, a kingdom of their own begins to stand, right? On the other side. And that's the thesis. That's the work. And that's why I'm here tonight, right? Smarts, document the pattern. It's 4 cycles. Final bosses, you are the architects. Pin up. Motivators, the cycle on the exit is able. And you need to believe that, right? Warriors, build a parallel kingdom. The receipts read themselves, right? Now, let's forward and talk about the Bible, right? Now we're going to open up our Bible and look at the receipts, right? Because scripture, it meets the news. You see it, You recognize it. You understand the patterns, but you don't do anything about it, right? Tisby lands hardest in this particular segment right here, right? The sovereign extends Tisby, right? In Exodus chapter 5, Moses walks into Pharaoh's throne room. 5 words come out of his mouth. Let my people go. Full stop. 5 words. Let my people go. Full stop, right? 5 words, very direct. No hedging. No diplomatic preamble, right? The demand is whole, right? Pharaoh's first move ain't dialogue. It is escalation. He pulls the straw and demands the same brick quota, right? He punished the enslaved for the audacity of wanting freedom. The text records the order in plain language. Make the labor harder. Make the petition cost something. Crush the petition by crushing the petitioner, right? Does it sound familiar? Are you recognizing the patterns yet, right? Listen, family, smarts, motivators, warriors, final bosses, right? Crack down on the protesters. Investigate the universities. Defund the libraries. Deport the descendants. Strip the citizenship. Pull federal contracts from the equity offices. Raid the activists in their homes. Surveil the journalists. Audit the nonprofits. Punish the corporate executives that mention diversity. The empire doesn't negotiate when the enslaved petition. The empire intensifies the labor while denying the legitimacy of that said petition, right? Then, here comes the plagues. Here comes the plagues. And you need to recognize them, right? Because that's what they are, right? Y'all watch the plagues on the news. You don't say anything, right? You know the list. Water turns to blood, frogs over the land, lice, fleas, ticks, livestock, right? Everything. People start getting boils on the skin, right? Hail destroys crops. Locusts eat what the hail didn't, right? 3 days of darkness. And that can't be lit, people. And then there's death of the firstborn. 10 plagues, family. 10. Count them. 10. Right? If you know the story of Moses, 10. And here's the part of the empire spends every Sunday during Sunday school and teaching, and y'all miss it, right? Pharaoh could have ended all of it. Every single plague, all of it, if he would have just let him go. The text says it explicitly 10 times. Pharaoh's heart is hardened. Every plague was a choice. Every plague was a refusal. Egypt absorbed the destruction because Pharaoh's identity was fused to ownership. He would rather watch his entire kingdom burn than admit the enslaved was not his to own. Are y'all hearing me? Right? That is narcissism in scripture. That is white narcissistic nationalism named 2,500 years before the term existed. Same disease, different costume, different geography, same diagnosis. Now look at America right now through the sovereign lens. Watch the plagues. Schools collapsing because leadership would rather defund than integrate. Plague. Public health gutted because trust was destroyed by leadership's own conspiracy machine. Plague. Maternal mortality at the bottom of the developed world. Plague. Life expectancy declining in the richest country on the planet. Plague. Mass shootings normalized to weather. Plague. Infrastructure rotting in plain sight. Plague. International stranding collapsing month by month. Plague. Democratic norms hemorrhaging. Plague. Every choke point driving every modern war. Plague. Climate destabilization absorbed as policy debate. Plague. Those ain't accidents, family. Those are plagues. The kingdom is absorbing them because the leadership refuses the only thing that ends them. Let them go. Release the grip. Share the land. Share the wealth. Share the power. Tell the truth about how this country was built. Pay what is owed. Stop pretending the inheritance is mediocrity, right? The Red Sea ending is the lesson the empire never reads. Pharaoh chased the liberated all the way to the water. The sea closed on the chariots, right? On the runners. The empire that won't release destroys itself in the chase. The crossing is the verdict. The crossing is unity, right? Sovereign extension. Moses didn't stay to negotiate with Pharaoh's better angels. Moses gave the warning. Moses delivered the plagues. Moses led the crossing. Moses received the tablets in the wilderness. Moses architected the nation on the other side of the water. Moses understood the assignment. The work ain't convincing of Pharaoh. The work is leading the crossing and the architecting of a nation on the other side. Tomorrow afternoon, I cross my own Red Sea at my own graduation. The PhD program is in the wilderness. The dissertation is part of the tablets, right? The frameworks are the operation manual. The community of the people is walking with me. The platform is the pillar of fire by night and cloud by day. I'm not walking for Pharaoh's 11th hardening. The chair beside me knows what it is on, and it's on the other side of the water. It may be empty, but it is full, right? And you're probably asking, where's all this coming from? Why now? Why us? Why tonight? Because America is at an inflection point. And let me explain, right? Let me explain on record why the moment specifically. Why now? Why us? Why this episode on this night, right? Before my walk. Because the sovereign lens is calibrated to this very moment, right? The census tells the same, a similar story, right? In plain sight. The United States crosses majority minority status before 2045. White Americans under 18 already ain't the majority. The demographic ground that's moving and the political response is to fortify the ground. Pour concrete over the demographic shift. Try to freeze the math. Try to legislate around the calendar. The sovereign lens reads it like this. The empire is panicking. The empire sees the clock. The empire knows the math. The empire knows the demographic upgrade is coming whether they install it or not. So the empire is doing what narcissism always does when status is threatened. The empire is raging. It is raging loudly and openly with the cameras rolling, right? PRRI and Brookings already counted the rage with academic rigor. 10% qualify as Christian nationalism adherents on the multidimensional measurement scale. 19% more are sympathetic. Over half of one major political party qualifies as sympathizers and or adherents, right? 40% of adherents agree on political violence as being legitimate. That is not theory. That is the count. That is the survey research. That is the empirical foundation under the diagnosis. The destruction phase infrastructure is already humming, and you are watching it and witnessing it, and you're not doing anything about it. You're not saying anything, and it's happening right now, right here, right in front of you, right? Federal voting rights protections, gored out by Shelby County in 2013. State level voting restrictions stacked on top in every cycle ever since. Public schools are defunded, vouchered into Christian nationalist pipelines, books pulled from shelves at rates not seen since McCarthy, right? Supreme Court erasing a half century of civil rights precedents. Affirmative action killed in 2023. Federal contracting equity offices are purged. The new apostle reformation operating at Seven Mountains conquest plan for government, media, education, family, religion, business, and arts. Christian nationalism mainstream from the message boards to the congressional floor. Federal workforce is purged of anyone touched by equity work. Federal contractors checked for ideological loyalties. Project documents openly discussing post-construction constitutional America. Mass deportation rhetoric mainstream. Birthright citizenship under direct attack at the Supreme Court. This ain't 1965 backlash. It's not 1965 backlash. This is 1877 architecture. The compromise that killed destruction is being reverse engineered for the 21st century in real time. Y'all are watching it on the news every single day. But the sovereign lens sees more than the destruction. The sovereign lens sees the question that nobody in the political class wants to ask out loud. The question the empire spends billions to keep buried. Who holds the pen of the rebuild, right? Because every previous rebuild was authored by the same cast that authored the destruction. That is why the cycle keeps running. And we're in the fifth cycle. The pen never changed hands. The next chapter was always written by the people who closed the last one. Reconstruction got killed by Andrew Johnson and the compromise of 1877 architects. Civil rights got killed by Nixon and Reagan. Obama era progress is being killed right now by Roberts Court appointees and Christian nationalist legislators, right? Unless sovereign architecture is built outside the empire's permission, structure before the rebuild starts, unless we have a kingdom standing on the other side of the water before Pharaoh's army even gets to the shore, unless the people the empire writes out of the rebuild have already authored their own architecture. That is why now. That is why us, and that is why tonight, right? Smart. The strategic frame is parallel sovereign infrastructure as response to dominant caste rebuild authorship. Final bosses, the move is build down, build in energy, build in consciousness, build in finance, build in narrative, build in education, build in faith, build in technology, build in community, build before the rebuild. The empire's rebuild ain't the only rebuild on the table. And to my motivators, the plagues are landing on Pharaoh's kingdom, and we do not have to absorb them. Our kingdom is being built on a different concrete entirely. And to my warriors, the strategy is exit, build, return as architect, not as petitioner, not as protester, but architect. The inflection point is the chair. And the chair that I'm sitting in, right? The walk starts tomorrow. The kingdom under construction starts on Monday. The inflection point is right now, right? And I'm going to go over, right? I'm going to go over a few minutes. So stay with me, right? And this isn't about hate speech. This is about patterns. This is understanding the core foundation of what this empire stands for and what it is built on. Destroy and rebuild. Success and collapse. That's why we can't get further. That's why we can't be unified, right? Destroy and rebuild, right? It's a pattern. You see the pattern. You recognize the pattern. I just gave you the pattern, right? Now, I was going to discuss the two white papers, but I don't have time for that, right? I don't have time to discuss the white papers. So I'm not going to discuss the white papers tonight. That'll be for another episode, right? That'll be for another episode. And we got to unify, man. And look, if you think that the color of your skin puts you in a better place, you're still paying $5 a gallon for gas, like we all are, right? Some of you can afford it, some of you can't. And that's everyone, right? Some people can afford it, some people can't. That's the system, right? This is about system. This is about empire. This is about building our empire parallel to the empire that's being built, right? Now, let's talk about what happens after the walk, right? Let's talk about what happens after the walk. And I'm going to lean forward on this, right? Strategic dominance, right? Y'all want to know what is operational in the morning after the stage, right? Because you only get 24 hours to celebrate. And I'm going to walk you through it, right? This weekend, the slab finished curing. The walk lands tomorrow afternoon. Sunday closes Arc 3 and sitting down Sunday's finale. The first Monday after closes Arc 3 and opens the construction floor, right? That's when I start rolling out the doctoral entity, right? It goes public across every platform in the ecosystem, right? Announced with credentials, program, and dissertation territory named explicitly, right? Author website integrates everything, right? LinkedIn profile is going to be updated. The sovereign umbrella, everything. Hexadecimal is in production phase, right? Pharaoh is going down the investor pipeline, right? Go Time 2 launch is in July. Go Time 3 is in the fall, right? The Rebirth lens stays operational across every episode of every show, across all weekly slots, right? Now show continuity, right? Some of the shows are going to be rebranded, renamed, right? Like tonight, Special Guest Thursdays will no longer be Special Guest Thursdays. Special Guest Thursdays dies tonight, right? It will be rebranded and renamed, right? The Merger Wednesday stays. Motivation Mondays and Sitting Down Sundays more than likely will also be rebranded, right? So the road to episode 300, the harvest, because the harvest is coming, right? And we're all headed toward it. Everyone, right? The harvest. I'm going to drop a new logo on the harvest. First episode, 300, right? Not an episode before, right? The discipline is operational. The community trusts the timing because the timing is non-negotiable. The reveal lands harder because the wait is honored, right? Between here and episode 300, we have 61 episodes to deliver the construction and the declaration. And the construction phase frames the building. The declaration phase opens the doors, and the community at scale activates inside the window. The 4 community segments get formal community architecture, tiered membership, curriculum access, cohort programs. Fired Up Train gets their first formal cohort deployment. The community audience ain't an audience anymore, right? The community is the operational structure. The community is the kingdom's population. And by episode 300, the deliverables are stacked, right? The identities are in place. The property and is all included in the ecosystem, right? The dissertation proposal is filled, right? It will be peer reviewed, and the publication strategy is already operational, right? The first journal article submitted to a tier 1 venue, right? The merge white papers will be fully entered into academic literature. The flag is planted, and not just on right here. It's going to be in the journals of record, right? Clo4 investor pipeline will be activated. It's coming, right? It's coming. All things are coming, right? Season 300, the harvest. Season 5, episode 300, the harvest, right? When it launches, be here for it, right? Rebirth will close, harvest begins. The new self ain't announced. The new self is in operational. The construction phase produced the kingdom. The declarative phase opens the gates. The harvest phase brings the yield, right? The chair beside me holds the lineage that walked through wildernesses before me. The chair watches the architecture finish. The chair watches the harvest land. The chair witnesses what every name on it was building toward and across centuries since 1619. The strategic discipline reminder one more time, family, right? It's not a preview. It's not a tease, right? It's not a hint. When the reveal lands, because the wait was honored. The community gets rewarded for patience by witnessing the reveal, right? To my smarts, the season after the season is the framework public arrival in the literature record. Final bosses, the season after this particular season is the kingdom's opens gates and the inheritance walking through. And to my motivators, the season after the season is the harvest of every seed planted in the burning of the prior year. And to my warriors, the season after the season is the strategic dominance phase, operational permanence, right? The declaration is loaded. The harvest is queued. The pen is in our hands when the rebuild starts. We have to unify. That is the move, family. That has been the whole move from jump, right? And as we close, right? Come closer, right? Come closer, right? I started this episode with an empty chair, and I close it with a full chair, right? The chair has not been empty for a minute since the beginning of this broadcast. Every last single one of you were part of that chair. Every last single one of you were sitting in front of the 8 chairs that was sitting across from you, right? Every name I spoke is in it. Every framework I extend lives in it. Every lineage I inherit nods from it. Every single final boss listening right now is a part of what makes that chair load bearing. Y'all hold the chair up too. Don't forget that, right? The lineage needs witnesses. The lineage needs inheritors. The lineage needs the community keeping the architecture alive after the architect lays his pen down, right? Tomorrow afternoon across the stage, the old self stays on the wrong side of the water. The new self walks into the wilderness with the staff in hand, the law on the way. 2 flagship strategic white papers in the breast pockets, the doctoral summary on my arm, and the kingdom under construction on the fair side of the inflection point, right? WNN was named on record tonight. Destroy and rebuild pattern receded across 4 cycles since the mid 1800s. Moses parallel made operational. Clay Pharaoh and the merge laid down as 2 pillars of the doctoral college catalog, right? Every sovereignty and consciousness, energy sovereignty and consciousness sovereignty, right? Doctoral summary in the pocket, right? Sovereign identities declared. The road to 300 is mapped. The harvest is prime. That is the episode. That is the boiling the ocean. That is burning the boats. That is why we do on Thursdays, right? And finally, the brass tacks, one more time, right? For those who didn't understand, for those who already have hatred in their heart, right? Pharaoh hardened his heart 10 times. America has hardened hers more. The plagues are landing on the kingdom that won't let go. The chair beside me is full over every voice that warned the empire and got dismissed. I'm here in front of you right now, and I'm bringing the architecture. The walk is tomorrow. The construction begins after the walk. The kingdom ain't coming, family. The kingdom is already here. And to my 4 communities, right? Smarts. Log every framework named tonight. Cite every paper. Plant the diagnostic name in the literature for record, right? Build the citation infrastructure that lets this work defend at the highest academic attitude, right? Y'all are the scholars, operate, right? Final bosses, The inheritance is yours. Walk into it without flinching. The sovereign is a category, not a person. Y'all are next in line. Stop asking the empire for permission. Hand the empire your terms, right? And to my motivators, the old self is allowed to die. The new self is allowed to be born. Rebirth ain't a metaphor, family. Rebirth is operational. Execute the death, execute the resurrection. Show the community what the crossing looks like from the inside, right? And to my warriors, strategy is exit. Build, return as architect, not as petitioners, not as a protester. Architect. The kingdom is yours to defend, to expand, to inherit, and hand forward. The Final Boss podcast is live every night, 5 days a week at 9 p.m., right? Tomorrow night, we reflect. Tomorrow night, we reflect, right? And then Sunday, we'll be back. The walk is in hand. The kingdom is open. The architecture is operational. The inheritance is moving. I am the Final Boss. This is the Final Boss podcast. The chair is full. And it doesn't matter what you identify as, what your beliefs are. We are all America, and we are all American in this empire, and we must unify. The division will keep us in this loop as we approach the fifth destroy and rebuild. It's time to get past the destroy and rebuild. That is old ideology, and it doesn't work. We're going to be approaching a point of infliction when America collapses on itself because America refuses to unify. That is the infliction point. America can collapse on itself. Imagine that. America collapsing on itself. That's our show, people. Thank you for joining us. Y'all have a good night. And as always, there's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but there is an even heavier pain that comes with regret. I am here. We are here. And this is the Final Boss podcast. And if I don't see you tomorrow, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Be balanced, be equal, and be smart. That's our show. Have a great one.
Let's go.